TR1, the no-income tax dream states. Alaska, the dividend mirage. Alaska sounds like a tax fantasy. No state income tax, no statewide sales tax. And they literally pay you to live there with the permanent fund dividend oil money straight into your bank account. It's like the government's your sugar daddy, right? Wrong. That dividend used to be 4 figures. Now it's a grand still 4 figures, but pocket change compared to the glory days. Oil dried up faster than your ex's apologies, and suddenly paradise turned expensive. Want milk? Up to $18 a gallon in the bush. A flight to Seattle? $800. Internet that actually works? Good luck outside the cities. Alaska didn't eliminate taxes, it just rebranded them as survival costs. The roads are crumbling, hospitals are understaffed, and small towns are vanishing like they're in a horror movie. Alaska isn't tax-free, it's just broke with good marketing. Wyoming, the fossil fuel gamble. Wyoming looks perfect on paper. No income tax, cheap sales tax, wide open spaces, and cowboy freedom. But here's the catch, the entire state runs on coal and oil money. When energy prices tank, Wyoming's budget collapses like a house of cards in a tornado. Teacher salaries freeze. Roads stop getting repaved. Hospitals delay expansions. It's not stability, it's a roulette wheel where the state bet everything on black, and black keeps losing. Wyoming isn't tax-free, it's just temporarily funded by dinosaur juice. South Dakota, the billionaire's playground. No income tax, low sales tax. Sounds like freedom, right? But here's South Dakota's dirty little secret. It doesn't tax you, it taxes everyone else's hidden money. South Dakota is one of the world's top financial havens. Billionaires from across the globe park their wealth here to dodge taxes in their own countries. There are more LLCs registered in South Dakota than actual people. The state's basically a P.O. box for the ultra-rich. Meanwhile, locals pay sales tax on groceries and property taxes on their homes. South Dakota's budget doesn't run on local taxes. It runs on global tax evasion. Congrats, you share a zip code with oligarchs. They just don't share the bill. Tennessee, the sales tax shark. Tennessee finally ditched its investment income tax in 2021 and joined the no income tax club. Victory, right? Not really. Because the moment income tax disappeared, sales tax became the enforcer. Nearly 10% in most counties, one of the highest in America. Groceries, taxed. Clothes, taxed. Breathing, probably next. The system crushes the working class because poor people spend a higher percentage of their income on taxed goods. Meanwhile, the wealthy who save and invest barely feel it. Tennessee traded fairness for a slogan. It's like skipping leg day and calling yourself an athlete. Nevada, the tourist trap. Nevada's whole tax philosophy is simple. Let the tourists pay. No income tax because every slot machine, blackjack table, and overpriced buffet funds the state. Sin taxes build schools. Casino revenue paves roads. It's genius until the party stops. During COVID, when Vegas went dark, Nevada's economy flatlined. No income tax and no backup plan meant the state was financially dead in the water. Nevada is proof that tax-free is just another word for fragile. The House always wins, but only when the lights stay on. New Hampshire, the property tax hammer. No income tax, no sales tax. Sounds like the American dream, right? But New Hampshire has some of the highest property taxes in the country. Every town funds its own schools, police, and roads through property taxes alone. So rich towns, pristine. Beautiful schools, smooth roads, happy kids. Poor towns, crumbling infrastructure, underpaid teachers, and broken down buses. New Hampshire is freedom if you can afford it. Otherwise, it's just expensive real estate with a libertarian bumper sticker. Washington, the regressive monster. Washington loves to flex, no income tax. But what they don't mention is that it has one of the most regressive tax systems in America. Sales tax hits 10.4% in Seattle. Gas taxes are brutal. Everything you buy gets taxed, but nothing you earn does. That means billionaires like Jeff Bezos pay almost nothing while baristas and teachers get bled dry. The poor pay a higher percentage of their income than the rich by far. Washington doesn't tax the rich, it tips them. Texas, the property tax scam. Texas is the king of the no income tax flex. Politicians brag about it like it's the second coming. But here's the reality. Texas has some of the highest property taxes in America, often over 1.8% of your home's value every year. You don't own your house in Texas, you rent it from the county permanently. Every school, every road, every fire station, it all comes from your property taxes. Want a nice home? Congrats! You just became the state's favorite ATM. The wealthy use LLCs to dodge it. The middle class gets crushed. Texas doesn't tax your paycheck. It taxes your roots. And every time you try to plant them, someone hands you a bill. Florida. The Sunshine Shakedown. Florida sells you paradise. No income tax, palm trees, beaches, eternal summer. But underneath the postcard, the state quietly bleeds you everywhere else. Sales tax hovers at 7%. Property taxes are higher than advertised, and homeowners insurance, the most expensive in the country because hurricanes are basically Florida's annual subscription fee. Add toll roads, resort taxes, county fees, and gas prices that make you wince. and suddenly you're wondering where all your savings went. Retirees love it here because Social Security isn't taxed, but middle-class families, they're paying rent to a state that promised them freedom. Florida doesn't tax your income, it taxes your life. Here are two, the low to moderate tax balancers. North Dakota, the responsible oil state. North Dakota learned from Alaska's mistakes. Instead of handing out oil dividends and hoping for the best, it built a sovereign wealth fund called the Legacy Fund. When oil prices crash, that fund keeps the lights on. When prices rise, they save instead of spending. Income tax ranges from 1% to 2.9%. Basically nothing. Reasonable property tax. No budget meltdowns. North Dakota doesn't pretend to be tax-free, it just pretends to be responsible. And somehow, that's rare enough to feel radical. Indiana, the boring winner. While other states argue about ideology, Indiana just shows up to work. Flat 3.5% income tax, steady sales tax around 7%, a rainy day fund that actually has money in it. Indiana doesn't gamble on oil booms or casino tourism. It funds things the old-fashioned way, predictable taxes and boring stability. Roads get paved, schools open on time, the power grid doesn't collapse every summer. It's not exciting, but it works, and in a fiscal circus, boring is basically a superpower. Pennsylvania, the flat tax baker. Pennsylvania has a flat 307% income tax. Sounds simple, right? Until you realize every city and school district piles on their own local taxes. Philadelphia, add almost 4% more. Pittsburgh, another layer. The flat tax isn't flat. It's a base coat with 50 different paint jobs on top. Pennsylvania looks simple on paper and feels like a tax labyrinth in real life. The price of living in a historic state is historic paperwork. Michigan, the comeback middleweight. Michigan has a flat 425% income tax and moderate sales tax around 6%. After decades of struggling with the auto industry collapse, the state finally stabilized. It's not cheap, but it's not predatory either. Detroit's rebounding, the Great Lakes are still free, and the budget's balanced. Michigan is what happens when a state stops panicking and just does the work. It's not perfect, it's just functional. Arizona, the desert optimizer. Arizona charges a flat 2.5% income tax, one of the lowest in the country. Sales tax hovers around 8%. The state uses its tax structure like a scalpel. Every dollar goes into tourism, tech expansion, and energy projects. It's not a free state, it's a functional one wearing sunglasses. Retirees flock here because it's warm and cheap. Tech companies come because it's business-friendly. Arizona figured out how to stay relevant without bleeding people dry. Louisiana, the flooded budget. Louisiana's tax system is like its levees, overcomplicated, underfunded, and one storm away from total collapse. Income tax ranges from 1.85% to 4.25%, which sounds reasonable. But sales tax hits over 10% in some areas. Corporate exemptions are massive. Corruption is chronic. Oil dependency is crippling. When hurricanes hit, billions vanish overnight. Louisiana doesn't have a tax system. It has a duct-taped survival plan held together by hope and FEMA checks. Missouri, the budget acrobat. Missouri tries to walk a tightrope between low taxes and decent services. Income tax tops out at 4.95%. Sales tax starts at 4%, but every local government stacks extras on top. The result? A confusing patchwork where two towns 5 miles apart have totally different rates. When revenue dips, Missouri just cuts education, healthcare, infrastructure. It doesn't balance its books, it amputates them. Ohio, the Rust Belt survivor. Ohio has a progressive income tax that tops out at 3.99%, pretty mild. Sales tax hovers around 5.75%. Property taxes vary wildly by county. Ohio's not flashy, but it survived the Rust Belt collapse better than most. Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati are stabilizing. The state learned that you can't tax yourself rich, but you also can't starve your way to prosperity. Ohio is the fiscal equivalent of showing up on time, not impressive, but reliable. Utah, the overachiever. Utah taxes like an engineer, writes code clean, efficient, elegant. Flat 4.65% income tax, sales tax around 7.25%. Balanced budget every single year. The state invests revenue with surgical precision, roads that work, schools that don't collapse, a booming tech sector they call Silicon Slopes. Faith, family, and fiscal discipline blend into one philosophy: pay your share, plan ahead, don't spend what you don't have. Utah isn't flashy, it's functional. And in a country obsessed with chaos, competence feels revolutionary. Colorado, the vice-funded winner. Colorado keeps income tax flat at 4.4% for everyone. Simple, predictable, fair. But here's the twist. Recreational marijuana taxes add hundreds of millions to the budget every year, most of it going straight to schools. Colorado literally turned weed into public education funding. Tourists pay for trails and parks. Locals get solid infrastructure. It's what happens when innovation meets accountability. Colorado is proof that you can tax vice and fund virtue. Idaho, the quiet success. Idaho doesn't brag, it just works. Income tax ranges from 0% to 5.3%. Sales tax is 6%. Low property rates. The result? Fast-growing population, low unemployment, and citizens who actually trust their government. Budgets stay balanced, corruption stays low. Idaho's philosophy is simple: fair taxes for a quiet life. No flash, no scandal, no crash. Just black coffee governance. Montana, the no sales tax minimalist. Montana has no sales tax, none, zero. But income tax ranges from 1% to 625%, and property taxes fill in the gaps. Montana keeps its government tiny and its books clean. You get what you pay for: basic services, clean air, quiet towns, no flashy stadiums, no corporate giveaways, just public functionality. It's the fiscal equivalent of black coffee, plain, honest, and impossible to mess up. New Mexico, the welfare paradox. New Mexico's income tax ranges from 1.7% to 5.9%. Sounds reasonable, but sales tax is high, exemptions for corporations are massive, and poverty rates are among the highest in the country. The state still depends heavily on oil and gas revenue, which is like building your house on quicksand. Education suffers, healthcare struggles. New Mexico is trying to modernize, but its tax system is stuck in 1970. North Carolina, the comeback engineer. A decade ago, North Carolina was a tax disaster. High rates, endless loopholes, total confusion. Then in 2013, it hit reset. Flatten the code to 4.75%. Cut corporate taxes. Simplify deductions. Business boomed. Investment soared. Revenue stabilized. Now it sits in a sweet spot, not cheap, not painful, just balanced, predictable, and smart. North Carolina proved that modernization beats ideology every time. Georgia, the sweet tea middleweight. Georgia has a progressive income tax that tops out at 5.75%. Sales tax is around 7.5%, and property taxes are moderate. But here's the catch. Every county adds special district taxes: school bonds, road fees, hospital levies. They stack quietly until you're wondering why your budget feels lighter every month. Georgia sells sweet tea and southern hospitality, then charges you extra for the ice. South Carolina, the tourist taxer. South Carolina keeps income tax around 6.5% and relies heavily on sales taxes and tourism. It's a smart trick until hurricane season hits or travel slows. The infrastructure is held together by duct tape and nostalgia. You'll see billion-dollar beachfront resorts next to roads that look like lunar craters. South Carolina's motto could be, "Please visit, we need your taxes." Iowa, the spreadsheet state. Iowa recently overhauled its tax code, flattening income brackets to 3.8% by 2025. Good move. But it still has one of the most complex local tax networks in America. Every county adds its own spin. One town charges for fire hydrants, another for streetlights. It's like living in a spreadsheet where the cells fight back. Iowa's trying. It's just trying to untangle decades of bad decisions. Nebraska, the overachieving farmer. Nebraska's income tax ranges from 246% to 624%, middle of the road. But property taxes can feel like a second mortgage. The state funds almost everything locally, from schools to 911 dispatch. That's why its fields are green, but its taxpayers aren't. It's not a bad deal, just a lopsided one. The state that feeds America still can't feed its own budget painlessly. Kansas, the brownback disaster. In 2012, Kansas tried a radical experiment: cut taxes and growth will explode. Governor Sam Brownback slashed income taxes, calling it a shot of adrenaline. What happened? Revenue collapsed, schools fell apart, highways cracked, the state's credit rating got downgraded twice. It got so bad that Republicans and Democrats teamed up to reverse it. They raised taxes to 3.1% to 5.2% just to survive. Kansas became the ultimate cautionary tale: you can't starve your government and expect prosperity to RSVP. Virginia, the classy balancer. Virginia's tax system feels like its history-old money discipline with new age efficiency. Progressive income tax from 2% to 5.75%. Reasonable sales tax around 5.3%. High but predictable property taxes. It's not cheap, but it delivers. Great schools, strong infrastructure, high median income. If you want civilization without chaos, Virginia charges a moderate entry fee and actually gives you what you paid for. Oklahoma, the 4-day school week state. Oklahoma tried to be Texas: low-income tax, top rate 4.75%, big business, cowboy freedom. Then reality hit like a tornado. After years of corporate tax cuts, the state went broke. Schools couldn't afford 5-day weeks, literally. Teachers fled to Kansas and Texas for better pay. Infrastructure crumbled. Oklahoma refuses to diversify revenue, so when oil prices drop, the entire budget collapses. It's not a tax plan, it's a coin flip with public schools as collateral. Arkansas, the juggle state. Arkansas has a progressive income tax topping out at 4.9%. It keeps cutting rates to attract businesses, but fills the gap with rising sales taxes that crush the poor. Result? Inequality climbs, rural hospitals shut down, and growth becomes a talking point, not a reality. Arkansas isn't failing. It's constantly treading water with pockets full of rocks. Kentucky, the tired balancer. Kentucky has a flat 4% income tax, low property tax, yet the state is constantly broke. Why? Years of corporate subsidies and underfunded pensions. Kentucky looks balanced until you check its books, then it's a politely smiling dumpster fire. Coal's gone, bourbon's not enough, and the budget's held together by wishful thinking. West Virginia, the coal graveyard. Coal built West Virginia, then coal abandoned it. The state cut taxes for mining companies for decades, hoping they'd stick around. Income tax ranges from 2.22% to 4.82%, but even that barely covers the basics. Now West Virginia has an aging population, low revenue, and rising healthcare costs. West Virginia is what happens when your entire tax system depends on an industry that already left town and took the jobs with it. Alabama. The discount disaster. Alabama has one of the lowest tax collections per person in America, and you can see it. Income tax ranges from 2% to 5%, but sales tax hits 11% in some cities. Property taxes are so low they barely fund schools. Teachers buy their own supplies. Hospitals close in rural counties. Public transit is a myth. The state constitution written in 1901 literally prevents modern tax reform. Alabama brags about low taxes the way a collapsing house brags about cheap rent. Sure, it's affordable until you need a roof. Mississippi, the poverty trap. Mississippi's income tax tops out at 5%, but half the population earns too little to pay it anyway. Property taxes are low. Sales taxes crush the poor. Schools are underfunded. It's the poorest state in America, and its tax policy is designed to keep it that way. Every tax cut is a cut to hospitals, roads, and education. Mississippi doesn't lift people out of poverty. It charges them to stay in it. The moderate to Higgs-stack states. Delaware, the corporate hideout. Delaware's income tax ranges from 2.2% to 6.6%, not terrible. But here's the secret, over 1.5 million businesses are incorporated here. That's more than the state's entire population. Why? Favorable corporate tax treatment and a court system that loves companies. Delaware doesn't need to tax residents heavily. It taxes corporate America instead. It's the Switzerland of American business, except with better beaches and fewer mountains. Maryland, the civilized middleman. Maryland sits next to D.C. and absorbs its professionalism. Income tax around 5.75%, plus county add-ons that bring it closer to 8%. Sales tax is 6%. Property taxes are moderate, but the services? Top tier, strong schools, good infrastructure, and one of the highest median household incomes in America. Maryland is like a government worker in human form, efficient, slightly boring, but dependable. Rhode Island, the tiny taxer. Rhode Island is the smallest state with big tax ambitions. Income tax tops out at 5.99%. Sales tax is 7%. Property taxes are high. For such a small place, it sure knows how to reach into your wallet. But you get decent schools, good healthcare, and ocean views. Rhode Island is expensive real estate with New England charm and New England prices. Wisconsin, the cheese tax state. Wisconsin has a progressive income tax topping out at 7.65%. Sales tax is 5%, but local additions push it higher. Property taxes are steep. The state invests heavily in education and public services, which is great, until you see your tax bill. Wisconsin is proof that Midwestern nice comes with a Midwestern price tag. At least the cheese is good. Hawaii, the island tax trap. Hawaii's income tax hits 11%, one of the highest in the country. Sales tax is around 4.5%, but the cost of living is astronomical. Everything, food, fuel, construction materials, must be shipped thousands of miles. Tourism taxes help, but not enough to offset Paradise's price tag. Living in Hawaii means paying luxury rates for ordinary life. It's heaven on a subscription plan, and a subscription's expensive. Maine, the aging idealist. Maine's income tax tops out at 7.15%, and property taxes are high. Healthcare, retirement services, and rural infrastructure cost money in a state with an aging population. But public services actually exist. You get clean air, safe towns, and quiet streets. Basically what New Yorkers pretend they want. Maine taxes heavily but delivers quality. It's expensive serenity. Vermont, the idealist's invoice. Vermont looks like a postcard: maple syrup, clean air, and quiet peace. But all that serenity costs you. Income tax tops out at 8.25%. Property taxes are massive, and there are a slew of local fees for schools and green initiatives. Vermont funds everything it believes in: renewable energy, healthcare, environmental conservation through your wallet. It's beautiful, it's moral. It's expensive as hell. You're not just paying taxes here, you're tithing to ideology. Minnesota, the generous taxer. High income tax up to 9.85%. But you see where it goes. Education, healthcare, infrastructure, all among the best in the country. Sales tax is around 7.5%. Minnesota is proof that high taxes aren't evil when they buy something real. People complain until they cross the state line and realize their new roads feel like driving on the moon. Minnesota taxes heavily but delivers heavily. Oregon, the no sales tax trap. No sales tax sounds amazing until you see income tax up to 9.9%. Oregon bets big on high earners and urban progressives to fund social programs. It works, barely. Portland thrives while rural Oregon feels forgotten. Property taxes are moderate. You pay for a utopia that doesn't always include you. Oregon proves balance is hard when one city writes all the checks. Connecticut, the hedge fund hideout. Connecticut is where Wall Street goes to retire and still gets taxed like Manhattan. Income tax up to 6.99%. Property taxes are brutal. Sales tax is 6.25%. But here's the twist. The wealthy hedge fund towns, Greenwich, Darien, Westport, have champagne budgets while the cities, Hartford, Bridgeport, and New Haven drown in deficits. Connecticut isn't broken, it's bifurcated. Luxury on one end, survival on the other. You're either sipping wine with accountants or wondering where the money went. Massachusetts, Taxachusetts, that delivers. They call it Taxachusetts for a reason. Income tax 5%, sales tax 6.25%, property taxes high, everything's expensive, yet Massachusetts delivers. Elite education, world-class healthcare, cutting-edge biotech, strong infrastructure. Boston alone attracts billions in research funding. You pay a lot, but you see the return. Think of it as the Ivy League of tax systems. Expensive, smug, but undeniably effective. New Jersey, the property tax nightmare. If you paid property tax in New Jersey, you felt your soul leave your body. Average property tax over $9,000 a year, the highest in the nation. Income tax tops out at 10.5%. Sales tax is 6.25%. Why? Because almost everything is funded locally. Schools, police, fire all under property tax bill. The good news? Fantastic education in safe suburbs. The bad news? You can never move because your house owns you now. New Jersey's motto should be, congratulations on your home, you now work for it. New York, the empire of fees. New York doesn't bleed you, it drains you with sophistication. Top state income tax, 10.9%. Add NYC's 3.876% city tax, and you're at nearly 15%. Sales tax near 9%. Bridge tolls, subway fares, parking tickets, everything costs. But this is New York, the financial capital of the world. World-class universities, endless opportunity. People stay because nowhere else matches its density of ambition. New York doesn't just tax your income, it taxes your patience, your parking spot, and your will to live. It's a brutal trade, paying for potential. Illinois, the broken ATM. Illinois collects like California but delivers like Kansas. Flat 4.95% income tax doesn't sound bad until you see property taxes that could fund a small country. Sales tax averages 8.81%. Pensions are underfunded. Chicago alone could bankrupt a state. Every dollar vanishes into a bureaucratic black hole. Illinois should be rich. It has Chicago, agriculture, universities, industry. But decades of corruption and mismanagement turned it into the Midwest cautionary tale. You pay high taxes and get nothing. It's financial betrayal with a deep dish pizza on the side. California, the 13.3% dream tax. California has the highest income tax in America, 13.3% at the top. Sales tax near 10% in major cities. Property taxes look mild until you realize homes cost nearly $1 million for a shed with a view. But what do you get? World-class universities, booming tech, Silicon Valley, Hollywood, massive infrastructure. It's the fifth largest economy on earth, bigger than the UK. Yet everyone complains. Housing crisis, homelessness, gas at $4.65 a gallon, wildfires every summer. California is excess personified, brilliant but bloated. You pay for paradise, and half the time, paradise is literally on fire. And the final one is not a state, but Washington, D.C. The taxation without representation. Not a state, but tax like one. Income tax up to 10.25%, sales tax 6%. Property tax is moderate. But here's the twist. You pay full federal taxes, but have no voting representation in Congress. Taxation without representation, it's literally printed on D.C. license plates. Still, D.C. glows. The streets are clean, the metro's efficient, the neighborhoods are booming. It's one of the few places where tax money feels visible. But that visibility comes with irony. You're paying top dollar for democracy you don't fully control. So that's America, 50 states, 50 scams in different fonts. Alaska pays you to stay, then charges rent to exist. Texas skips income tax but bills you through your property. California takes 13% and still asks for donations. There's no tax paradise, just creative theft with state flags. Freedom? It's still for sale, plus tax.